Did you know what's going on in your gut could be messing with your mood more than you think?
Oh, it definitely can.
We were given some really interesting stuff on digestive health,
Yeah.
and we're going to share the most surprising things we found.
Cool.
So, ready to debunk some myths about like everyday digestion?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, great. So we've got digestive health tips from the American College of Gastroenterology,
Okay.
and a super fascinating article on the gut-brain connection
Yeah.
from Johns Hopkins Medicine.
That's a good one.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So many people think stress and spicy food are like the main culprits
Oh, yeah.
behind ulcers.
Totally.
But the American College of Gastroenterology actually points out that bacterial infection is the most common cause of duodenal ulcers.
Yeah, that's true. That surprised me too when I first read it.
Oh, that's definitely not what I expected. So while stress may not be the main cause of ulcers, it can definitely impact our digestion in other ways, right?
Absolutely. Stress can really wreak havoc on your gut. We'll dive more into that whole brain-gut connection later,
Hmm.
but for now, let's stick with some more practical advice from the ACG.
Awesome. What else surprised you?
Well, for one, swallowing difficulties should always be taken seriously.
Hmm.
It's not something to just brush off,
Right.
because it could be a sign of something more serious going on.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth getting checked out.
Okay. And heartburn, I feel like who hasn't experienced that at some point?
Oh, tell me about it, that burning sensation after a big meal.
Ugh, the worst.
But you know what? The triggers aren't always so obvious.
Yeah.
The ACG, they list some unexpected culprits, like peppermint and even tight clothing.
Whoa, I had no idea those could be triggers.
Yeah, it's kind of wild, right?
Yeah. So it's really important to pay attention to what our bodies are telling us
Exactly.
and try to identify those personal triggers.
Totally. And as we get older, the ACG really highlights that nutrition becomes even more important. Malnutrition is actually surprisingly common in older adults, and it could really have a big impact on their overall health.
So it's not just about what we eat.
Right.
It's also about how well our bodies are absorbing those nutrients as we age.
Exactly. Absorption becomes key.
What does the ACG recommend?
Well, they recommend a balanced diet with reduced fat intake, limiting salt and alcohol. Good advice for everyone, really.
Yeah.
But, something that surprised me, they bring up a fact about gallstones. Most of them don't actually cause any symptoms.
Really? I always thought gallstones were like incredibly painful.
Yeah. It's only when a gallstone blocks a duct
Okay.
that those, intense abdominal pain, those classic symptoms occur.
That makes sense. And it's interesting that mention that rapid weight loss can actually increase the risk of gallstones.
Yeah, that's something to keep in mind.
For sure. Definitely something to be aware of.
Definitely. And speaking of risks, let's talk about hepatitis for a second.
Okay.
Did you know there are 5 types?
5. I had no idea.
Yep, 5. Hepatitis A and E in particular are transmitted through contaminated food and water.
Got it.
The good news is that there are vaccines available for hepatitis A and B.
Okay, so practicing good hygiene and getting vaccinated can go a long way
Absolutely. Prevention is key.
in preventing those types. What about some of those conditions that are a little less common?
Sure. Well, the ACD mentions something called circulatory disorders of the GI tract.
Hmm.
And this basically involves, problems with blood flow to the digestive system.
Got it.
The colon, for example,
Okay.
is particularly vulnerable to something called ischemia.
Ischemia, what is that?
It's essentially a reduction in blood flow. Fortunately, most cases resolve within days with antibiotics and bowel rest.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
But something that really stood out to me from the ACG material was just the sheer number of medications
Oh, yeah.
that many people are taking. They said 80% of older Americans living independently take 20 or more prescriptions per year.
Wow, that's a lot.
That is a lot of pills. It really underscores the importance of carefully managing all those medications,
Right.
especially as we age.
Absolutely. It's essential to remember that the effects of medications can change over time.
Yeah,
So regular checkups with your doctor,
Yeah.
including a review of all your medications, is essential.
for sure. Okay, so switching gears a little bit to irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS. It's a very common condition,
Oh, yeah.
and it's often misunderstood.
It really is.
What's important for people to know about IBS?
Well, the ACG highlights that the exact cause is unknown,
Mm,
but it's thought to be triggered by a combination of factors,
okay.
including things like stress and diet.
Yeah.
Interestingly, it rarely develops after the age of 55.
Oh, okay. So if you start experiencing those classic IBS symptoms like
Right.
the abdominal pain, changes in bowel habits for the first time later in life,
Yeah,
it's really important to rule out other potential causes.
totally. Got to be sure. Now onto a maybe less glamorous topic, hemorrhoids.
Hmm.
The ACG, they really stress the importance of seeing a doctor for any rectal bleeding.
Why is that?
Because, it could be a sign of something more serious.
Yeah.
Don't just assume it hemorrhoids,
So always err on the side of caution.
Exactly. Better safe than sorry.
What about preventing hemorrhoids in the first place?
Increasing fiber intake, fluids, and avoiding straining are key.
Right.
And when it comes to inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD,
Yes.
it's important to dispel some of the common myths.
What myths?
Well, one is that it's contagious,
Okay.
and another is that it's caused by diet.
Got it.
It's actually an autoimmune disorder.
Okay.
And there are two main types,
Okay.
ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease.
Hmm.
Ulcerative colitis affects the lining of the large intestine,
Okay.
while Crohn's disease can affect any part of the digestive tract.
Okay, so two different types with two different areas of impact.
Exactly. Now, another myth the ACG busts is that constipation is a normal part of aging.
Hmm.
It's not. For mild to moderate constipation, increasing fiber fluids and establishing a regular meal schedule can help.
Okay, and it's important to remember that incontinence of stool in older adults is also not something to be ignored.
You're absolutely right. It can often indicate an underlying medical issue that should be addressed by a healthcare professional.
Okay, let's talk about fiber for a second. The ACG dedicates a whole section to the benefits of dietary fiber,
Yeah,
which it seems like it plays a role in so many digestive issues.
it really does, and for good reason. A high-fiber diet has been linked to a lower risk of several health conditions, including heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and some types of cancer.
Wow, so it's not just about digestive health.
Right, it's bigger than that.
It's about overall health.
Exactly, it's a big deal.
Okay. They recommend aiming for 20 to 35 grams of fiber per day,
Yeah?
which I'm guessing is a lot more than most people consume.
Probably, yeah. Most people don't hit that.
No.
But luckily, there are tons of delicious and easy ways to up your fiber intake. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, all great sources.
And they recommend increasing that fiber intake gradually
Yes, good point.
to avoid any digestive upset.
Very good point. And also, it's crucial to drink plenty of fluids
Yes.
when you increase your fiber intake.
Right. Speaking of things that can cause digestive upset, let's talk about diverticular disease.
Sure. So the ACG explains that diverticulosis,
Okay.
which is the presence of these small pouches in the colon, is pretty common, especially after age 60.
Got it.
While it often doesn't cause symptoms,
Okay.
it can lead to a more serious condition called diverticulitis.
Okay, what's the difference?
Well, diverticulitis is when those pouches become inflamed or infected,
Hmm.
leading to pain, fever, and changes in bowel habits.
Okay.
And it's really important to seek medical attention
Yeah.
immediately if you experience those symptoms.
Got it.
Interestingly, a high-fiber diet can actually help prevent diverticulosis in the first place.
So it all comes back to fiber. We've covered so much ground here.
I know, right?
From common digestive issues to surprising facts about the digestive process.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
But get ready for the truly mind-blowing part,
Oh, this is my favorite
the
part.
connection between your gut and your brain.
Yes, the gut-brain connection.
This is where things get really interesting.
Super interesting.
The Johns Hopkins article really delves into this world of the enteric nervous system,
Oh, yes.
often referred to as our second brain.
I love that, the second brain.
The ENS it's a complex network
It really is.
of over 100 million nerve cells.
Can you believe that? 100 million.
They line your entire gastrointestinal tract. 100 million. That's incredible. So what does the second brain actually do?
Well, its primary function is to control digestion.
Okay.
It manages everything from swallowing to the release of enzymes that break down food
Yeah.
to even like the control of blood flow for nutrient absorption.
Wow. So it's basically running the whole digestive show.
It is. It's the boss down there.
But you mentioned this connection to our brain. What's that all about?
Well, while the ENS isn't composing sonnets or anything, it's in constant communication with our brains. And this communication can actually trigger significant emotional shifts.
Okay.
And researchers are finding that this might actually play a role in conditions like IBS.
So you're saying my gut can actually influence my mood?
Absolutely. Irritation in the gut can send signals to the brain that can trigger mood changes,
Wow.
which may explain why people with IBS often experience anxiety and depression.
That's incredible.
It is. It's fascinating.
Does this mean that treating like my gut health could potentially improve my mental health as well?
Well, that's a very promising area of research. For
Yeah.
example, antidepressants are sometimes prescribed for IBS,
Right.
not because the problem is, all in your head,
Yeah.
but because they can actually calm symptoms by acting on those nerve cells in the gut.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's not just about what's going on in your head.
That completely changes my understanding of IBS.
I know, right? It's so complex.
So what about these, classic butterflies you get in your stomach when you're nervous? Is that another example of the gut-brain connection?
It is. That feeling is actually your brain sending signals to your gut in response to stress or excitement.
So fascinating.
It is. It's amazing.
Before we move on to the next part,
Okay.
are there any other mind-blowing facts about this gut-brain connection that we can leave our listener with?
You know what? There is one. Did you know that the gut microbiome might have a greater impact on the effectiveness of medications
Oh, wow.
than we previously thought?
That's wild.
Yeah, this emerging field of personalized medicine
Hmm.
is looking at how our unique gut bacteria can actually affect how our bodies respond to drugs.
So two people could be taking the same medication or
Yeah,
have completely different experiences
absolutely.
based on their gut bacteria.
Exactly. Isn't that crazy?
That is wild.
It's incredible. And this is honestly just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to all the amazing discoveries
Right.
that are being made in gut health.
We've covered so much in this first part of our deep dive,
Yeah, we have.
but there's so much more to explore.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We'll be back soon to discuss more about the gut-brain connection and its implications for our overall health.
I can't wait.
So stay tuned.
Yes, stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the fascinating world of digestive health.
Yeah, we're back.
I'm so excited to continue exploring this,
Me too.
especially the gut-brain connection.
Oh, yeah,
It's incredible.
it is.
So we talked about how the gut can send signals to the brain,
Uh-huh.
but does it go both ways? Can our thoughts and emotions actually affect our gut health?
You know, it's interesting because it absolutely can.
Wow.
Remember those butterflies in your stomach when you get nervous?
Oh, yeah.
That's the perfect example
Yeah.
of your brain sending signals to your gut. Stress, anxiety, even excitement, all these things can trigger a whole cascade of physiological responses in your gut,
Okay.
leading to changes in things like motility, blood flow, and even the composition of the gut microbiome.
So those feelings we experience in our gut
Yeah,
are a real physical response to
absolutely.
what's happening in our brain.
It's not just in your head, it's a real thing.
That makes a lot of sense. So if this communication between the brain and gut is a two-way street,
It is.
are there things we can do to nurture this connection and keep both our brains and our guts happy?
There are, and thankfully a lot of them are things you're probably already doing or have heard of.
Okay, good.
One of the most important is prioritizing a healthy, balanced diet.
Okay.
Think fiber-rich fruits and vegetables and fermented foods.
Okay, you keep mentioning fermented foods. Why are those so important?
Well, fermented foods are packed with these beneficial bacteria,
Okay.
also known as probiotics.
Yeah.
And these probiotics can help replenish and diversify the gut microbiome,
Okay.
which is really key for optimal gut health.
So it's not just about adding fiber, it's also about adding those good bacteria.
Exactly. And the more diverse our gut bacteria,
Yeah.
the better equipped our gut is to handle stress, digest food effectively, and support a strong immune system.
Wow.
Fermented foods are a fantastic way to boost that diversity.
Okay, what are some examples of fermented foods?
Well, you want to aim for a variety. Things like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi.
Okay.
They all bring something a little bit different to the table.
I'll definitely be adding more of those to my shopping list.
Good.
What about those prebiotic-rich foods you mentioned earlier?
Oh, yeah.
What role do they play in all this?
So prebiotics are basically food for probiotics.
Oh, okay.
They help to nourish and support the growth of those beneficial bacteria in your gut. Think of it this way.
Okay.
If probiotics are the seeds, prebiotics are the fertilizer.
I love that. So where can we find these prebiotics?
Some of the best sources include garlic, onions, leeks, asparagus, bananas, oats, and flax seeds.
Okay.
They're rich in a type of fiber called inulin,
Got it.
which is particularly beneficial for those good gut bacteria.
Okay, so by incorporating a variety of both fermented foods
Yes.
and prebiotic-rich foods into our diet,
Uh-huh.
we're setting the stage for a thriving gut microbiome,
You got it.
which then has a positive impact on both our physical and mental health.
Exactly. Now, in addition to diet, there are other lifestyle factors that play a crucial role in nurturing that gut-brain connection.
Okay.
Staying hydrated is a big one.
Oh, yeah.
Water is essential for digestion.
Right.
Helps keep things moving smoothly.
I know I'm guilty of not drinking enough water sometimes.
It's something we all need to be mindful of,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
And of course, we can't forget about stress management.
Right.
As we talked about earlier, stress can really wreak havoc on our gut.
For sure.
Finding healthy ways to manage that stress, whether it's through exercise, meditation, yoga, or spending time in nature,
Yeah.
is incredibly beneficial.
I'm a firm believer in that.
Good, as you should be.
What about sleep? Does that play a role in gut health?
Absolutely. When we're sleep deprived,
Okay.
our gut microbiome can become imbalanced, and that can lead to digestive issues and even impact our mood.
So getting enough sleep is another way to show our gut some love.
Exactly. Prioritize that sleep.
Okay, will do.
And finally, don't underestimate the power of mindful eating.
Okay.
This means slowing down, savoring each bite, paying attention to your body's hunger and fullness cues.
I know, I often rush through meals, especially when I'm busy.
Very common in today's world, go, go, go.
Yeah.
But taking the time to eat mindfully can significantly improve your digestion.
Okay.
It allows your gut a chance to communicate with your brain,
Hmm.
let you know when you've had enough.
Right. Before we move on, I wanted to touch on something you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Fecal microbiota transplantation, or FMT.
Ah, yes, FMT.
I have to admit the name sounds a little intense.
Yeah, it does.
Can you explain what it actually involves?
Absolutely. Essentially, FMT involves transferring fecal matter
Okay.
from a healthy donor
Got it.
into the gut of a recipient who's suffering from a gut-related illness.
Okay.
The goal is to introduce those healthy bacteria
Mm.
into the recipient's gut and essentially give their gut microbiome a makeover.
So it's like a microbiome transplant.
You could say that.
That's really interesting, and this has been proven to be effective.
It has. It's been shown to be incredibly effective in treating conditions like Clostridium difficile infection, or C. diff,
Okay.
which is a serious bacterial infection that can be very difficult to treat with traditional methods.
Mm.
It's often a last resort for people who haven't responded to other treatments,
Okay.
and the results have been remarkable.
So for people who haven't responded to other treatments,
Yeah.
FMT could be a game changer.
It definitely has that potential.
Wow.
And researchers are now exploring the use of FMT for a wide range of other conditions,
Mm.
including inflammatory bowel disease, irritable bowel syndrome, and even obesity.
Wow. It's incredible to think that something as seemingly simple as transplanting fecal matter
I know, right?
could have such a profound impact on health.
It really speaks volumes about the power
Yeah.
of the gut microbiome.
This whole discussion has been so eye-opening.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is. I'm starting to see my gut in a whole new light.
I know, me too.
It's not just about digestion.
Okay.
It's about our overall health, both physical and mental.
It's so interconnected.
It really is. So before we wrap up this part,
Okay.
I'm curious to get your thoughts on something. We've talked a lot about the science,
Mhm.
but what about the more intuitive side of things? Do you think there's a connection between our gut feelings
Oh, interesting.
and this brain-gut connection we've been discussing?
You know what? That's a great question.
Yeah.
And one that researchers are starting to explore.
Okay.
There's definitely anecdotal evidence to suggest that those gut instincts, those feelings we get,
Yeah.
might be influenced by that communication happening between our gut and our brain.
It makes you wonder if our gut,
Yeah,
which has been processing information and sending signals to our brain
right.
long before we even developed language,
That's true.
might actually be playing a role in shaping our intuition. What do you think?
I think it's a really compelling idea.
Yeah.
While we don't fully understand all the mechanisms involved,
Right.
it's certainly intriguing to consider that possibility.
Yeah.
That our gut might be contributing to those gut feelings that we often rely on.
Right.
Perhaps there's a deeper wisdom residing in our gut than we realize.
That's a really interesting thought.
It is. It's pretty wild when you think about it.
I'm eager to see what future research
Yeah.
uncovers about this connection.
Me too. The gut-brain axis is a true frontier of scientific exploration.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling we're only just scratching the surface.
It feels like we're just at the beginning of really understanding all this.
Totally. But for now, we've covered a lot of ground in this second part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've looked at practical steps you can take to nurture your gut-brain connection,
Mm-hmm.
explored the promising field of FMT,
Yeah.
and even pondered the connection between our gut and our intuition.
So much good stuff.
It has been a really interesting conversation.
It has. We've learned so much.
We have.
But there's still more to come.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be back soon for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll delve into some cutting-edge research and emerging trends in the field of gut health. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into digestive health.
Yeah, we're back for round 3.
It's gone by so fast.
I know, right? But we still got some exciting stuff to cover.
Definitely. We've talked about a lot already.
Yeah.
From the basics of digestive health to that mind-blowing gut-brain connection.
I know. It's amazing, right?
Yeah. But now, let's step into the future of gut health.
Okay, sounds good.
And explore some of those emerging trends.
Yeah.
And the cutting-edge research that's shaping this field.
The future of gut health, here we come.
I'm ready for a glimpse into the future. Where do we even start?
Well, you might be surprised to learn that your gut bacteria could play a key role in personalized medicine.
Personalized medicine. I thought that was more about like genetics and stuff.
Oh, genetics definitely plays a role, but your gut microbiome, that unique ecosystem of trillions of bacteria in your digestive tract,
Right.
it also holds a wealth of information that could help tailor medical treatments.
Okay, so how does our gut microbiome tie into personalized medicine?
Well, think of it this way. These gut bacteria, they're constantly interacting with your body,
Yeah.
influencing everything from your digestion and immunity to your mood and even your metabolism.
Right.
And what's becoming more and more clear
Uh-huh.
is that they can affect how you respond to certain medications.
So you're saying my gut bacteria could determine whether a drug works for me or not?
In some cases, yes.
Wow.
Research is showing that the gut microbiome can actually influence drug metabolism, absorption, and even efficacy.
Hmm.
This means that two people taking the same medication could have completely different results based on their gut microbiome.
That's fascinating and a little bit unnerving.
It is. It's kind of wild when you think about it.
It is. So how are scientists using this knowledge to personalize those treatments?
Well, researchers are actually developing ways to analyze a person's gut microbiome
Hmm.
and use that information to predict how they might respond to a specific drug.
Wow.
They're also exploring ways to manipulate the gut microbiome using things like probiotics and prebiotics to
Yeah.
try to enhance drug efficacy
Okay.
and minimize those side effects.
So instead of a one-size-fits-all approach to medication, we might be moving towards a more personalized, gut-driven approach.
It's really exciting stuff.
It is. It is. It's still early days.
It is. It is.
But this research has the potential to really revolutionize the way we treat so many different conditions.
Oh, absolutely.
From like chronic diseases to mental health disorders.
It's groundbreaking stuff.
It really is. It really is. What other areas of gut health research are particularly exciting right now?
Another area that's generating a lot of buzz is fecal microbiota transplantation, or FMT.
Okay, I remember you mentioning that earlier.
Yeah, we touched on it briefly.
It definitely sounds a bit intense.
It does. The name's not very appealing, is it?
No. Can you remind us what it is and why it's so promising?
Sure. So to put it simply, FMT involves transferring fecal matter from a healthy donor into the gut of a recipient who's suffering from a gut-related illness.
Okay.
The goal is to introduce a diverse and healthy community of bacteria
Right.
into the recipient's gut
Yeah.
to basically give their gut microbiome a much-needed reset.
And this has actually been proven to be effective.
It has. FMT has actually been remarkably successful in treating Clostridium difficile infection, or C. diff.
Okay.
It's a serious bacterial infection
Yeah.
that can be very difficult to treat with those traditional antibiotics.
Mm.
It's often a last resort for people who haven't responded to other treatments.
Okay.
And the results have been, honestly, pretty remarkable.
Wow. It's amazing to think that something as simple as transplanting fecal matter could be so powerful
I know, right?
in treating gut disorders.
It really highlights the incredible power and importance of the gut microbiome.
For sure. And the potential applications of FMT extend far beyond C. diff, right?
Oh, absolutely. Researchers are now investigating its use for things like inflammatory bowel disease, irritable bowel syndrome, obesity, and even neurological conditions.
So FMT could really be a game changer for a wide range of issues.
Yeah, it really could. We're only just beginning to understand its full potential.
This has been such an incredible journey, honestly.
I know, right? It's fascinating.
Who knew there was so much to learn about gut health?
It's amazing how much we're still discovering.
I know. It's incredible.
It's a really exciting field.
It is. Before we wrap up, I wanted to circle back to something we discussed in the last part. The idea that our gut might actually be influencing our intuition or those gut feelings.
Oh, yeah. That's a cool one.
It's a fascinating concept.
It is.
But it also sounds a bit, mystical.
Yeah, a little out there.
Is there any scientific evidence to support this idea?
It's definitely an area that needs more research,
Right.
but some intriguing findings are emerging.
Okay.
For example, studies have shown that stimulating the vagus nerve, which is a major communication pathway between the gut and the brain, can actually enhance intuitive decision-making.
So there could be a real physiological basis
It seems so.
for those gut feelings?
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. It makes you wonder.
I know. It really makes you think.
It does. This has been such an eye-opening deep dive.
Oh, I'm glad you think so.
And I'm honestly walking away with a whole new appreciation for my gut.
Me too. It's a remarkable system.
It is. It is. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
It was my pleasure.
It's been a pleasure having you.
I always love talking about this stuff.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery. We hope you learned something new about the importance of gut health and that you feel inspired to prioritize your own gut health.
Absolutely.
Remember, what's good for your gut is good for you.
That's what we always say.
And as we always say here at the Deep Dive, stay curious, keep exploring, and never underestimate the power of your gut.
That's right. Take care of your gut.